Beech nuts would just make it a dynamite spot. Man, there is rubs everywhere up here. This bottom one is at my belly button, and this top one's chest high. That looks like Monster Buck Central. We're not gonna put a camera in the bedding because that'll just completely blow him out. It's May 29th. We're back out here on Big Woods public land, and we're going into the swamps today. Now this is probably in the same home range as the areas I have been scouting, but probably on the very edge. So I'm hoping that this area might catch the bucks that I'm already finding, as well as maybe finding bigger bucks in a different area. Then I know I need to branch out in this direction. But we're going down into a swamp system here. It's gonna be extremely thick because as you can see, green up has already started. And I wanna get in this area first before I continue my future places I wanna go to, because this place is gonna be a mess and really fast. And we had a lot of rain yesterday, so I am going to get soaked today, but I should be able to find some tracks. There's been deer out everywhere on my bike ride in. And then if we have time, I'm going to connect this area to what I already scouted, but we'll see how that goes. I'm assuming this will be a little bit quicker than the other places because it's more hardwoods and swamps. So there's not a lot of vast places to check. It's gonna be very specific on where there isn't water. There's a bunch of knobs connecting together back here, and it's kind of like a big bowl in the middle, and it connects up to where I know clear cuts are kind of far away, but it's where this area is going to connect to. So if we get a giant buck back here, and we don't get them everywhere else that we've been scouting, then we know that we need to broaden our range this way, and then maybe check those clear cuts that are way remote from the access. And just continue following this trail. I maybe went 80 yards. We're getting some old rubs. Rubs should be pretty easy to see today, being cloudy and wet. They should gleam and all this stuff. You can see where all the deer have been coming through here. Even got prints in the mud of them crossing, going over. So I'm gonna try and hop across this. I don't want to get this wet this early, but that swamp is a mess. And there is a trail going right through here, and there is an island out there. I don't know if I even want to attempt that today or if it's even worth it. They're not going to be there today. This stuff is thick. We're in between two swamps right now, and this is the only way you can get through unless you go up and around. But I want to check the through because this is where people won't go. So you have the creek coming from that other swamp and is dumping in to this swamp, weaves in and around. I'm starting to wish I brought my hip waders that I left in the car, because I have a feeling it's gonna get really wet once I get up here. Oh, we're almost to the hardwoods I said I wanted to get to and push through this, but I want to make sure I check it. But I don't think I'll be coming back this way because it is a disaster in here. We got to push through this probably another 150 yards, and then we'll get to where it opens up to hardwoods and knobs, and it's completely protected by like 5 swamps. So let's get it. And we're getting wet. We're gonna be completely soaked by the time we get through this. That was not fun. So we finally got out. We got a scrape already right here, licking branch, and it's right on a tiny knob here at the edge of this swamp. And I'll show you why I'm not going in here. That is a disaster. This swamp is keeping people from coming in here. But we're gonna get into the good stuff now. We're not even near where I wanna be. But all the sign is leading back to where I wanna go. Fresh prints from a deer. Actually, I wanna go check those out. They look pretty big. Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. They're just kind of kicked up, going up that way. I've been only seeing small doe prints so far. But like I said, I wouldn't expect a buck to be here. I expect them to be further back. And these scrapes are probably from the rut. We're just coming off this big knob here. And I'm more interested in down that area because of how it joins with everything and how they would travel from other areas or their core areas. But you can already see how this is coming down, and it's very open and flat here. And there's a big knob right over here that we're gonna go up to. This just screams early season back here. These little open browsing areas. And we got a lot of tracks coming in right here, kicking up a little bit. Looks like small does milling around in here. And it looks like we have some beech nut trees here. Now whether or not they produce this year is another question. But you can see all this action around here, them digging up. It looks like they're looking for old beech nuts that got forgotten. But it looks like we have a couple here. And it's on the outside of open area here. The knob's back up in there. So if these beech nuts are active this year, and this is a honey hole connecting all these knobs together, there should be a buck on it. Now whether it's gonna be very hard to hunt this though and not get busted by the does before the buck comes in. But for instance, you got a huge tree right here, 4 round, easy cover. Be perfect to hunt a 10-yard shot. Just whether or not the does would bust you ahead of time. And the thermals are all gonna be piling in here. But this is good to know. I'll have to mark this down as a beech nut area. And it looks like there's beech nuts all over in here. If that's the case, that's exactly what we're looking for early season. Because obviously there's does in here, but we just need to get a reason for a buck to be in here. More doe sign already. And you can see where it's starting to go way up here on this knob. And it's kind of transitioning. You can see where it drops down to the swamp there. We have a little flat here. And it's gonna force this travel, is gonna pinch in here and probably go straight up. You can see the knob starting here, and it goes up there. We should have a very defined trail wrapping around the edge of this. I think I see a rub up there already. Oh yeah, there's a rub right here. And there's definitely a rub up there. Got a rub here, coming apart, kind of low, but he could have been standing down there. But that other rub up there too, it looks rotten, which could mean that this was done early season, and that's why it's rotten, because it got mold in it and everything. Where'd that rub go? There it is. Yeah, that's a nice rub. It's an old one, and again, it's rotten. They love rubbing these green little sapling trees. But yeah, that tells me there's a good chance that was done in early season and it's not during late season. So this knob could be an early season buck spot, and that's a good rub. There's another little rub right there too. He could be bedding here, which is gonna be so hard to find beds here. It could even be right there, honestly. A little depression. It is a bed, isn't it? That looks like it could be a very possible bed with rubs all around it. And that's a big bed if it is. And you got, is this a track? That's my track coming up. So we have several rubs in here with possibly scratching rubs on it from the side rub. Is there any antler marks on these branches? Not that I can see. But this would be ideal for a buck to be bedded here. He can just see over and it drops right down. He's got the swamp down there and he has 2 ways to travel. We'll probably wrap around this whole knob and check it out. But this is ideally what you want to find for early season, is all these young trees that just create great cover. Yeah, there's another rub right there. Well, let's follow this out a little bit more, as if he left this way, and see what's going on. He could just go right up to the top too. Man, we might get a lot of bucks. There's another rub. We might get a lot of bucks on this camera in early season velvet. That would be great. Especially if there's beech nuts down there. And another rub here. But that's another thing you got to keep in mind, that this looks like a very hot spot, that probably last year he was here early season with all the rotten rubs. And how he exits down to where I said there's beech nuts and it's ripped out there. But if that's beech nut and they were producing last year, they might not produce this year. So then if this area is dead and there's no beech nuts, he's not going to be here. We're not going to put a camera in the bedding because that'll just completely blow him out. Or he'll just sit in his bed or avoid it altogether. I just had big buck vibes about this area. I've been looking at it all week on the maps. It just has everything they need, and beech nuts would just make it a dynamite spot. Man, there is rubs everywhere up here. You got another big one right here, it looks. Yeah, there's another big rub right there. And I saw another one over here. Yeah, all the way out there is another big rub right here. We got a scrape here now. I was coming up to check out that other rub right there's another rub. There's literally every 6 feet in here there's a rub. But we got a scrape right here, tiny one, and we got a better one. Where did I see that? Am I just seeing things? We got another rub here, another rub there, and it's just endless rubs up here, endless. And they are all rotten with mold, every single one, which means that it was most likely done in early season, because if there's mold on a rub, it's because it's really warm in early season, and then it gets cooler at night, and mold grows, and then it rots it out. And almost every single one of these rubs is rotted out, which means this is probably just an early season spot. Like I said, probably on those beech nuts, but it's going to be extremely hard to hunt this buck up here. With it being this open knob, it's very noisy to get through. It's going to be hard to get close. There's going to be deer around bedding as well. And where is he going to come out at? Because he could just roam this top and just drop down anywhere. So I stopped videoing all the scrapes and rubs because it was endless over here on this side coming up, and there was a scrape just over there. But as I'm coming over to this side of the knob, it gets a lot more open. And what I'm looking for is tree stands, which I see, hopefully that's not a tree stand over there. Maybe it's just a rock. But this place is very remote. But if I come from this way, I could access this pretty easily. And pretty quickly, just a long ass bike ride. But what I'm really scanning for in here is because this is ideally where a hunter would set up, where they would have a trail camera in this open area. They'd set up a stand where they can see far and not necessarily where they need to be to kill a deer. So I wrapped all around the back side of the knob to where it meets the swamp. No deer sign. Wrap around this way, no deer sign. There's no sign of any people, no scratches on the trees, no cameras, no actual tree stands. And we're getting up to where I saw the rubs before. So anything bedding up here is using this far side, which means they're dropping down to where I said those beech nuts were. But there should be one trail coming down here, going down to the bull I said, and I'm hoping I can find something to put a camera on, because I do not want to put a camera in their bedding area. Man, I might have to come in here in the morning and hunt, because I don't see how I could hunt this in the afternoon, and I'd have to get lucky on which way he went out. You can see the trail right there going down. That's the ridge I was on where all the rubs were in the bed. I was just looking over the maps again, and the more I look at it, the more it seems like these buck beds that I found could very well be going down into the right. There's a swamp down there, but there's a cluster of pine trees, which means that there's probably a passway through there. And then through those pine trees, he only has to go, I mean, it's a distance, but it's not that far, to get to clear cuts. And it's the other clear cuts I was talking about, which would make sense that he's in here on beech nuts, and then he could also have his other bedding over there, because all the rubs are here, they're not over there. The way I came in looked promising, but the more on that side I look, it's just so thick. So I think I'm gonna head back down through where these beds were and see if there's a cross trail to get to the other side of those clear cuts, because if that's the case, then we know where our next future trips are. I only have one more back at the other area to check out, and that area is pretty much all settled down and cameras in the high probability spots. Yeah, this is what I was afraid of down here. It really chokes down at the swamp. It's just, this looks like a rub though. It is. We've got a rub here, and look how high his tines are hitting. Man, he's just really ripping in it. That's a big buck. This bottom one is at my belly button, and this top one's chest high, which means that's a big buck hitting and turning his head, and he's hitting that, which means there's probably a really defined trail up here that cuts across. Like I said, it gets pines in here, but there should be a walkway they can get through, because we're not going through that, I'll tell you that right now. Where that rub was over here, I pushed through this a little bit, but you're coming to this little area here. I'm trying to find a way through this because it's disastrous. But you can see this is completely snapped off here. These are all broken coming in through here, every single one, which would be ideal for a buck with big antlers to be pushing through this stuff and breaking trees down. But it is a mess through here. But it should be a quick push through. And with these soft limbs, they can just push right through this. But it looks like there's kind of a trail here. Because like I'm walking through this pretty easy, even though it looks thick. We're getting some more old rubs here. Going up, there's a tiny little elevation change here. Yeah, very defined rub line. Oh, thank God. Hello, daylight. And it leads to clear cuts. And they are thick, but they look like the perfect year to hold bedding for bucks. Whereas the other ones, I might not be so sure that the bucks are bedding in there unless they're moving in through the rut, but this looks thick. And this is huge too. So what I think I'm gonna do, I think I'll go further down and find a way to drop back into where I was, but that looks like Monster Buck Central. So I went and hiked around that swamp where I said it looked like another pinch point where they could access from the back would probably be a good crossing point. It was not. It was all impenetrable brush. It was a mess. So I had to come all the way back around, but I decided to check the access point that I said I would come in the backside. That would be quicker and easier. And it's actually really easy. And I'm finding doe sign using it coming in, and there was impressions further out where I started to come down and across this. And this leads up the backside of that knob where I said there was no buck sign. It leads up to where I was checking for those tree stands. So we're gonna go back actually to the buck bed, and we're gonna figure out how we're gonna hunt it, because I feel like this would be a crazy morning spot, and it would actually be very easy to do in the dark because of the access for it, but it would just be a long bike ride. So I'm thinking that if I come in the backside and stay on a lower part here, because there's gonna be deer all over the top, and I gotta find a tree in here that I can cover all of this, which is gonna be very hard. But I have a lot of open area here that leads with rubs, and I'm assuming that they're gonna wrap this. So if I can find a tree that works for all of this, and he's not gonna smell me, because there's gonna be does coming in here too, which I'm assuming the does are gonna stay up on these trails where I'm seeing all the doe sign. But I think he's gonna wrap and come straight up. So a lot of these trees are very small. So if we can find one that works, that we can get into from the backside here and cover this little knob here. And I can't go that far because I'm thinking they're coming from this way. And the way I have to access is over here, because I'm thinking they're all down in that bowl down there. But I think if I'm right here, my scent will drop down there until the thermals pick up and it goes up in the morning. Because there is a lot of sun here. So my thermals should, in the morning, rise as soon as the sun comes up. So I think I decided on this tree right here. I wanted to go in this one right here because I have a lot more shot opportunities without cover in the way. But there's no backdrop. I'm skylined. I just don't like from the angle he's probably going to be coming is up this way. And he would just see me really easily. But if I go back to this tree right here, I have a lot of saplings coming up that are going to just get thicker as the year goes on, as well as these. So him coming over, he's going to have these saplings in the way, whereas I feel like that is a little more exposed. And then ideally, as you can see, it clears out at this point, but there's a lot more brush to the left of it where I'm expecting him to come from. So if I come in from down there, hop up over and get to this exact tree here and set up, he'll be able to come up through casually, or even from over there, because if he comes over there and it looks down this tree line, he's going to see this tree really easily. But that one has enough cover in front of it that I could blend in a little bit, so then whether he comes from here or down here and they merge, and you can see the rubs right here, there's a very defined trail that wraps around this here, which he would be bedding somewhere in here. And being down a little bit more rather than here, I'd be less likely to be winded down there because the thermals should dive really hard. God forbid my thermals drop in the morning and it pulls right here, and I have a doe walking right through here and she smells me. But if I'm down there, then I should avoid all these trails completely. So the safer I can be, the better. So I'm going to go directly to my tree, pretty much hug it, and drop a pin so I can be able to find this tree in the complete darkness. We came down off those beds and we're heading down to that bowl that I originally was heading for from the very start. And you can see the fine trail going down through here. And you actually see mud trails starting down here where it gets wet. But it looks like there's a little bowl area down here, and hopefully we find a big scrape. Oh my God, look at this. Look at that. So what I meant by finding a trail through the bowl just might be that. So we're gonna follow this out. It should lead to a scrape up here in this middle part. But talk about a trail. So now I'm 100% confident that when a buck beds up on that knob, he's coming from this direction. Look at this. It splits over there a little bit, but I'm more interested in the main part here. So where that mud trail came from, over to here, these swamps make very defined travel in here. It's gouged out up there, and it goes into a little T intersection here, three-way, that goes out to another little knob that way on the edge of a swamp. So I think I'm gonna go check that out, and I might just put a trail camera here. With these branches hanging out, I can make one heck of a mock scrape right here. And I'd be able to easily check this because those other knobs are way back in there, and as you see, it is a mess. But if anything's back there, it's gonna come through here. So I'm thinking instead of blowing that out, I wanna put a scrape here. I'll go check that knob. That is ridiculous to get to. I don't even know if it's worth getting closer if I can kill him here. But like we have this huge tree here we could set up in. This one's a little close. You could set up over there on that tree. But everything, this all leads to those bedding knobs I was talking about. And if this knob is being used over here, and we put a scrape here, then we have both these bedding spots figured out. And this will lead right back, and I see pines starting back here. So hopefully we find some more big buck sign back here. And then we have a little hub going on. So these trails, they choke up pretty fast in here. And they split off, which I'm assuming then that would be doe bedding. If there is buck bedding there, he's going a different way. So we had to improvise the camera setup a little bit where it drops down into here. And I made a big mock scrape underneath the overhanging limb. There was an old scrape over here, but I'd rather have them centralized here. And then it should have a clear enough shot here. I put it aiming to the left a little bit to avoid all this brush because I don't want to take 100 pictures of moving brush. But we have it up there aiming down the hill onto the scrape here and where they hop over this. So I should be able to pick them up as soon as they hop on top here. They'll probably stop there. The camera will start rolling. It'll drop down to the scrape and then they'll hop up out. Now I'm going to set it on picture mode. I don't want to use video because I'm afraid that it's going to catch all of this brush in a windy day and make the camera go off all day. So I'd rather use pictures that at least the battery won't die completely after a couple days. And if it doesn't pick these up, we should be able to let this soak, and then we can come back in here pretty much without messing anything up because it's on the underside of the knob over there. And then if there is anything deeper in, which is a long ways back where the bedding would be, they'll eventually come through here and I'll be able to see them, and I'll be able to tell they're coming from that direction as well. Now I'm very interested to see if they'll squeeze off the knob here and come in, or if those bucks will come down here and come in, or maybe they'll just go that way. But I should be able to get them at some point here to get an idea of what's in the area and how to hunt it, and then go from there.